This is your Daily 5 for Monday, March 23rd, 2026. There is nothing quite so entertaining as when a CEO under fire decides to make what they think is a blanket statement to silence all the haters, and not only tells people that they're wrong to have the opinions that they have, but also that they're incorrect about something that this person then goes on to tell them they are completely correct about. So I'm talking about as a follow-up to last week's 5 on the DLSS 5 reactions and how things are going. The CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, responded to the avalanche of negative response to what DLSS 5 was shown off to do by telling people that they were, quote, completely wrong, end quote, about not only how things look with this technology enabled, but how the technology works itself. And honestly, it is just a delight because, telling a bunch of people who already think that you're doing something wrong, that they're wrong to not like the results of an artistic interpretation that your technology does is a stunning way to try to calm people and get them back on your side. Because art, by its very nature, is open to interpretation and is subjective. So to tell people that their interpretation and their subjective opinion on something is just wrong is always the right way to go. And then to compound that error, I shouldn't say error, that arrogance of thinking that your viewpoint is the only one, Jensen Huang then went on to say that people were misunderstanding how the tool worked because everybody was saying that it's generative AI changing the way these things look. But in fact, it's content, I believe the term was content control, geometry-based generative AI that's actually making the changes, and that the degree of change is within the control of developers. Now, that is a wonderful use of very fine-grained semantics and terminology kind of detail-oriented reconfiguration. Just like what I just did there, a bunch of nothing words to make you think that something is different than what people thought, when in fact it is actually the same. So what Jensen Huang is saying is that using the blanket term generative AI is wrong and misunderstands the technology because it's in fact a fine-tuned version of generative AI. But generative AI nonetheless. And that's, I think, the major point about this, that somebody in the position that this individual is just cannot understand, is they think that there is a difference that many people have with generative AI in general and specifically directed generative AI when it comes to artistic endeavors. And the fact that there is the idea that you can parse that unease, that ethical issue, that discomfort with what it can do to a person's artistic output, that is very telling. Because that just gives you an insight into the fact that these people do not view the world the way that ordinary people do. And of course they don't. This is a CEO of one of the most valuable, if not most valuable companies in the world right now, who is actively betting almost everything the company has on this AI technology train just rolling and rolling and rolling along. So like I said, it's not surprising to me that this was the immediate reaction. Instead of saying, well, we disagree, but there is some context to this and let's discuss it, or we feel like what we were doing is actually enabling better art. No, completely wrong. People not thinking that art is improved, quote unquote, by what they're putting out are wrong. People saying generative AI as a blanket statement, as opposed to really, really diving deep into the details of the type of generative AI that's being used, also completely wrong. So, I mean, this is, in my mind, for my personal opinion, this is the best thing we could have hoped for, because it just shows that there is absolutely zero connection between this individual and the customer base that they are trying to appeal to. And I think as long as they keep making statements like this, they're only going to keep engendering this type of ire and anger and negative response. And you know what? They deserve it. Because CEOs in this position do not think like the people that they pretend that they're serving. In fact, they only care about making sure that whatever is making their company money keeps making them money. So when they make statements like this, I think it does a nice job of underlining that for people who make the mistake of thinking these individuals care about them as customers. They don't. And so when they make these tone-deaf statements where they basically talk down at their customers, that's a nice way of reminding you that you don't matter, only the dollars do. Later.